Welcome back to the channel, everybody. So today we're doing part 3 on the Toyota 2G RFE, which is a 2006 Toyota RAV4. If you haven't seen the previous video, check out where this engine started. It was a complete rusted mess, and here's where we're at now. So we got the cylinders all honed out, and most of them turned out flawless. Not much going on there. And then you have some of the bad cylinders that were really bad to begin with. Has these little tiny oil pockets in here. We're going to call them oil pockets. Rust pitting. This is 20 thousandths over. You can't feel any of this stuff at all. It is very light. That was just dirty down there. So, yeah, let me try the other side, but definitely good enough. See if I can get this thing turned over. Need to wipe out the cylinders a little bit. I don't really see any, yeah, they're pretty much flawless once they get wiped out and everything. Hope there's a little bit down there. Let's see. Other than that, as good as it's going to get. You can only bore these blocks over 20 thousandths because they have a very thin, either steel or cast iron sleeve, super thin, inside the aluminum block. So that's all they allow you to bore them over. I guess they do make larger sleeves for them, just in case you want to go any further. But, yeah, this is good enough for what we're doing for a stock little SUV that already has 270,000 miles, and they just wanted to keep it and go again. So let's start putting this thing together and see how it goes. So I still got to clean it. I'm going to get everything cleaned out. I took sandpaper, did the edges of these guys a little bit, and I'll just fill for any groove or burrs or anything like that on the bearing surface. Get the little bit of rust out from here. Just take sandpaper and I'll go through all that stuff. And that's about it. Take all my galley brushes and everything. Wash everything out. Put it back in the vat. Take my clean water. Blow everything out. Blow it off. And it'll be ready to assemble. Okay, putting it together. And I noticed, so all my clearances are good. But we've got... For one, the bearings are not located, which is kind of interesting. So you kind of center them as good as you can. There's no tang on either side. And then this is wider bearing, skinny, wide. So the bearings are different thicknesses. And if you put one of the thicker ones in any of these, it will not turn. So I'm going to drop this in. Torque everything down and then make sure it turns this time. Everything's all torqued down. She spins by hand, nice and easy. So I checked thrust. Thrust is right on the money. And these got torqued down to 45 foot-pounds and then 90 degrees is what my book said. Okay, so I've got my top groove, second groove down in the bore. Slide one of these things down, use it as a squaring tool. Checked gap. Gap is within manufacturer specification. I got my rod mounted. So to put the snap rings in, I always put one snap ring on one side of the piston every time. Usually I put it on the opposite side of the dot. And then when I tear apart my engines, I mark what cylinder it is. So number 1, and that is facing towards the front of the engine. So that way, these are doweled on this side. So that way I know that's the front of the engine. And when I put the rod in, the wrist pin will be sticking out that side. And then I know that everything's facing the right direction. Some rods are offset, some rods have the tangs to one side, but that pretty much is my way of doing that on every engine. Disassembly makes assembly a lot easier. So I'm just using oil on everything. I oiled up the wrist pin, cleaned everything up, oiled inside the piston, the wrist pin, and inside the bushing, and then I'll oil the cylinders, set my rings on there, I'll oil the piston, and I'm actually using Rotella 1540 because that's what I use, that's what I have around the shop, that's what I use for everything. And then work the oil in behind those grooves there. That's about it. And then I use assembly lube on the bearings, which I don't know where it's at. Permatex Ultra Slick, that's what I've always used on the bearings. So slap the pistons in this guy. So I did notice while assembling the piston, so dot to the front, and I wasn't able to mark all of the rods because the motor was super seized up and I was just tunnel vision on tearing it apart. But the little dowel indicators go towards the front of the engine, and then there's a cast in mark here, that hump there, that goes towards the front of the engine. So when you're assembling this, you'll be able to see dot towards the front and either numbers or that towards the front, and you'll see if you make a mistake. And make sure you get the rods in the right direction, because a lot of the engines, rods are directional. On the ring side, see if I can grit this. So most people know there's a dot. My phone's not going to pick it up, but there's a dot that's facing upwards. That is because that is a tapered ring. You can kind of see the bevel. Probably not going to be able to pick it up. On the bottom of the ring. Yep, not going to be able to pick that up. But there's a bevel. So it's a directional ring. The top ring is symmetrical. It's a barrel face ring. And it's also chrome faced. So usually if you have one black ring and one chrome ring, or whatever these are coated with, your chrome one always goes up top, and it does not matter the direction. Okay, got all the rods and pistons in, got the windage tray on. These guys Loctited down. I think I left this one loose. This is a oil pickup tube, I'm pretty sure. Can't get the rear main seal in through the backside. So that is as far as I can go without cylinder heads. Until I get the cylinder heads done. So everything went good. I will tell you that these ring compressors, this is a Mac. Where's my set at? Mac Tools. That ring compressor sucks for this job. It does not like small rings, so if you're going to build one, I would suggest you get a lot better ring compressor than that. And then after it's all complete, just make sure I could actually grab it. It doesn't take a lot of force. I could grab the counterweights, but we'll put the crescent on the front. And just make sure that everything, I got bolts in the way, but everything turns over nice and easy by hand. And no weird binding, rotate it a few times. I rotate every time I install one piston. I will rotate the engine at least one full revolution. And that'll give me an idea of how everything feels going together. But this thing will basically rotate by hand if I could grab it. Rotates over nice and easy. So get the cylinder heads built, and I'll get the long block done on the next video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you the next time.